Hi everyone, hello, welcome. Welcome to this panel for Jury Insight, Film and Entertainment. My name is Anna Smith, I'm moderating today. I'm a film critic and broadcaster and host of the Girls on Film podcast, and I'm very pleased to be here today to moderate this. We may have time for questions at the end. Welcome everyone, please take a seat. I'm going to introduce all our fabulous panelists one by one, and then they're each going to choose a piece of work that stood out to them, which they're going to talk a bit about. So first of all, you're going to have to share a few mics here, guys, so if that's all right, thank you. At the far end here, we have Jimmy Smith, CEO and Chief Creative Officer, Amusement Park Entertainment. Welcome to Jimmy.
Thank you. Good to be here. Do you want me to tell them what piece of work?
Well, I mean, we'll do the piece of work after, but just saying, hey. Known as a legend in the industry when I Google you, by the way, so there you go. Next up, we have Liz Taylor, the Global Chief Creative Officer of Ogilvy. Welcome to Liz. And then we have Nimo, Awil, Creative Director of MediaMonks. Then we've got Jung, who is the Global Creative Director at Cheil. And last but by no means least, Sergio, Gordilho, and you're the CEO of Africa. Yes, congratulations on all your amazing work. A lot of pencils between you all, I'm sure. Now, you've all been busy on different juries. Jimmy, you were on the entertainment jury. You've chosen a piece of work. Would you like to do a little intro to it, and then we'll watch the VT, and then you can tell us why you've chosen that particular entry.
It's called Mateko, Missing Mateko. And it's for a magazine out of Canada. And I guess I can't say too much about it until you guys see the case study. But it's awesome.
All right. Can we have the VT, please? First one. Well, would you like to tell us more about why you've chosen that one in particular, please?
Yeah, this one really hit home. I grew up was born and raised, born in an all-black neighborhood. And then around kindergartners, so I moved into an all-white neighborhood. So all of the stories that were written or told to us, Columbus discovered America, Manifest Destiny, if you know that meant that basically the white government could wipe out all of the Native Americans, indigenous folks, because it was the destiny from God. So that's what we were taught. And Pocahontas' story, I was taught that, she loved the man that she married, loved everything about it. And in reality, John Smith, probably one of my ancestors, right? John Smith from England came over, wiped out her tribe, basically. And then another one of his soldiers, John Rolfe, took Pocahontas, and as the story goes, raped her. Never knew any of that stuff. I took my young sons to go see the Disney movie, Pocahontas. Understand? Took them to go see that movie because I thought, well, that's what had happened. And then so only a month ago when I was judging this award show, because this was done in Canada and I'm out of LA, did I realize what the true story was. So that was fucking deep. So there you go.
Thank you. That's really powerful stuff. Thank you for choosing that one. Liz, would you like to tell us about what you've chosen, your first choice?
Sure. I judged film alongside this lovely woman. And I chose Accessibility the Greatest. I chose it for a couple reasons. I'll tell after, but one theme, just that you'll see, it was product demos in our jury. It was nice to see well-crafted, beautiful films that are for products that you need a demo. And I'll talk a little bit more after, but it's Apple Accessibility the Greatest. Get ready to dance.
You have the VT, please. Thank you.
So I chose that for a couple reasons, regardless of what the whole jury may have thought. I think there's some people in the jury in here, but for me, I know the bad version of that. As a creative leader, I know how the bad version would have been. It's a brief, it's a montage, get a song, show every single thing. And I just thought, I knew it's Apple. Apple does a lot of great work. But in general, it's like a good example, at least for me. One of the things we said in the jury is this something that you would bring back and hold up is like, okay, if you're doing a montage, is every single scene, I mean, the sound here is amazing, is every single scene thought of and crafted? Is the edit, is it work to it? Are you really demoing the product? Are you left feeling something at the end versus a lot of feelings? Can I leave an elevator pitch it to any one of you and tell you what the story is? And so that was why I chose it. Also because I selfishly love the music and think it wakes up a room. And so that's the selfish reason.
Yeah, they all look pretty awake now. Well done. Great, thank you. Nimo, tell us what you picked.
Yeah, so I was on the film jury as well, and the film that I chose is one that I think, all felt, well, we just felt after watching it quite a lot. It's really well crafted. It's beautiful to look at. It's for J&B, the whiskey brand, and it's called She. And I'll talk more about why we loved it so much after the fact, because I don't want to give anything away.
Okay, let's have a look at the clip, please. Thank you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Wow.
So there's a few reasons that I chose this one. The first being, if I was to look at it from a creative director point of view, and the team came and said, it's all about the grandfather, and it was his transition, his change of life, that would have been lovely. But there's something about that twist that he's doing it for his granddaughter in the end that really drove the point home, especially, this actually aired in the Latin market. I believe it came out of Spain. So you're thinking like really macho society, very patriarchal, and it's literally the patriarch of the family that is the one that opens that sort of floodgate of acceptance for his granddaughter. So that's a big reason why I love it. I think the music is brilliant. The song is perfect. And lastly, it's topical. I think, you look on Twitter, on the news now with things that have been going on, I think it's a really lovely way to talk about a sensitive thing, but in a way that's going the right way without, shock value and showing people in trouble. It's just showing the beauty of what happens when you truly celebrate someone. And for a whiskey brand, I thought that was really brave, and we talked about how usually whiskey's like, it puts hair on your chest, the man's drink. And for this, it was almost the opposite. You could be, a little bit rough, but also kind and gentle at the same time. So that's why I chose it.
Great choice, thank you. Yeah, groundbreaking stuff. So Jax, would you like to tell us about what you've picked?
Hi guys, I was on the jury for media, and I had picked Chill boards by Coors Light, alcohol as well. And I really loved it just because the simplicity of it. And I think we can take a look at what the film is, and then we can discuss the reason why I picked this piece.
Great, can I have the next clip?
Did you guys enjoy it?
It's great.
I think secretly I wished I did it. That was like the main reason why I love this piece so much. And I think there was a lot of debates around, is this something that we feel super strongly about? And I think for me personally, when I saw this piece, I wish we did more work like this. And I think coming out of COVID and being locked up for 2 years, and like people are just like, there's a lot of campaigns now that, we saw a few trends kind of going through all the media work. And I think, number one, to my surprise, there was a lot of kind of classic advertising that's still great, which made me happy. But, and then on the opposite end of that spectrum, there was pieces that were like super tech heavy, super AI focused, and that kind of drove the concept around the idea. So, but then there's this other kind of bucket of work that represented a lot of sustainability and environmental, and also like awareness around social issues, which I thought was super interesting. And I think for brands, it's necessary now, because now people kind of believe in the belief of a certain brand now. So I think Coors, just because their whole motto is around made to chill, it was quite nice that, and I think last year was like the craziest, hottest summer ever, and there's no saying that this is not going to be a hotter summer this year. This is going to continue to kind of be there, and I think this film was quite nice because like everything about this ad like made sense with the brand itself, and I think even the use of typography, it was quite beautiful, and I think it really does end up like saving kind of AC costs, but also the health and the well-being of people in the extreme heat. So I think like when you see a brand like this and like budgets are tighter now after COVID, we get like anywhere between like 30-50% budget cuts from our clients, and I think it's quite nice because we're always complaining because it's like we can't do this with this major budgets anymore, but it's quite obvious that with a simple idea that's well executed, it is possible. So I think personally, I think this is something that I want to keep pushing myself. So wanted to share it all with you guys as well.
Thank you so much. Now, Sergio, you're on the entertainment jury. Should we have a look at the next clip, and then you can tell us about why you've picked it?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Tell us more about that.
Okay.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Why I choose this one? Because I'm Brazilian? No. No. No, I think because I really believe that that work in the creative industry, we are entertainers. And more and more you're going to see such work that brands create entertainment in a way, because we see nowadays that to gain people attentions that used to buy people attention, but to gain people attentions, we had to engage with that. The brands has to engage with that. So I think that's a very good example of a brand that could be do a very boring idea, and they use an idea that for sure receive more no's than yes. The kind of idea that can turn dust or magic. And I think that's really happened, and it was a really amazing idea of how advertising, how brands can engage in people doing kind of entertainment, because advertising is about entertainment. Photography is about entertainment. Because we entertain people, we gain their intention. So I think that's a very good example of how, because no one knows how we're going to be future. We have a lot of prophets, but few Moses. But this is the kind of job, the kind of work that I think show a window, a bridge, maybe to the next future.
Wonderful, thank you. I want to talk to you all now just individually about your roles as jurors, because I'm sure everyone here is quite fascinated to know a little bit more about the process, and also a little bit about some of the other work that you saw and any trends that you saw emerging. I'll start with you, Jimmy. Were there any particular themes in your category? We've seen some really powerful and very different subjects represented on stage here today so far. Did you find that there were any trends emerging?
A lot of people dabble, this is probably with all the juries, dabbling into AI. So it's like the new internet, trying to crack that code and figure that out. Also on the entertainment jury, folks, to Sergio's point, they haven't quite figured out what's entertainment and what's a commercial. And there is a difference. You'll pay, how many of you will pay to see an ad, a 30-second ad? But you'll pay to go see a film, or you'll pay to stream something, and so on and so forth. That's what we're trying to move the industry towards, and they haven't quite figured that out yet, a lot of folks.
All right, that's a fair point. Thank you. Liz, you mentioned earlier, you sort of alluded to differences of opinion in juries, and obviously we can't go into detail here, but I am curious to know when that sort of thing arises, you know, you and Nimo might want to talk about this together, but how do you deal with that, and how do you kind of reach some kind of conclusion?
We play rock, paper, scissors. No, I'm kidding. I will say, so in the film jury, the part I think I was most pleased with this year, just in terms of previous years and other juries, was the makeup of our room across, you know, geographical backgrounds, gender backgrounds, racial backgrounds, and so there was a lot of even like agency versus production like backgrounds, and so I thought there was a really nice makeup, which led to great discussions. We had there was no big fights. There was good discussion. I think the hardest part as a jury president was, there was the joke in our room was, I think people want to be respectful, and so when you have something negative to say, you're not, at least in our room, people weren't as vocal, so people would look at me as the president and do this. And so in the beginning, I had to call on people a lot. They'd give me the look. Like, we're like, okay, you know, so-and-so, is there something you would like to say? But there was a difference of opinion, and at the end of the day, it comes down to voting. It comes down to numbers. I mean, you have to have a certain percentage. You have to have majority in order to win. And hopefully everyone in the room felt their voice was heard. But there was definitely a lot of discussions, a lot. They tried to wrap us up a few times.
Well, that's good. Healthy debate.
Healthy
That's
debate.
nice to have that insight. Thank you. Would you pass the mic to Nimo in case you have anything to add on that subject as well?
I thought, so I've done many different types of juries before, and I think exactly what Liz said, I find that because the work that we're looking at is so global that you kind of need the room to sort of, as closely as possible, match the entries that are coming in, because I found that for quite a few pieces, and this has happened before and happened again in this jury, that I would have judged something on my own, not knowing the cultural context behind it, and it would have gone completely over my head, the insight, whatever it was. But then we'd have folks in the room who'd be like, well, actually, in China, this means this, or in the States, the Super Bowl is this, which is what Liz brought to the table. So I think the makeup of the judges is so key, but then also it does require a certain level of like empathy and willingness to listen and almost being open-minded, checking any sort of ego at the door. No one had egos. It was nothing close to that, but that is a big part of it. You have to sort of go in there and be ready to be inspired. And actually, I was surprisingly swayed on quite a few of the things I'd gone in thinking was a yay or a nay. And I was like, actually, you've, convinced me to go otherwise, which is always really fun.
That's a lovely moment if you actually find your own mind sort of shifting and changing.
Exactly.
That's kind of really healthy, I think, isn't it?
Exactly. Have a word with yourself.
Jax, we just heard about different countries, in the jury and such, but in terms of your judging and the different countries that you saw in their submissions, were there any kind of areas of the world that particularly impressed or that you thought were particularly, moving really fast and doing exciting things?
Yeah, actually, we actually discussed about this in the room as well, but there was a lot of great work coming out of Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were saying, hey, maybe we should, all have some offices down there because they were doing great work, great production, very kind of great concepts, and so we were pleasantly surprised in the South American market.
Yeah, great, thank you. Sergio, did you have anything to add to what we were talking about before, or do you want a separate question? Because I'm interested to know, we haven't heard from your area about the debating and how it went on in the jury room.
Well, I think we have a great president. So he handled very well because, like different backgrounds, different people. And I remember that first time that I was juror at D&AD was 15 years ago. And I think quite different from today. At that time, we were discussing about internet, digital, things like that.
Yeah.
The same that we were being discussing about AI. Nowadays, that we see that the first time that we see architects and engineers finally married. And singing. So this kind of discussion that we had, like the future, about the present, about what to do, what to make, with different backgrounds, different cultural context, and even like for us that live below the Ecuador line, that the things are quite more difficult than here. But we see like the quality of the production, the quality of even the insights and everything that we have nowadays. I think it's really equalized, and there is a really good balance between different countries, and I think that's great. That makes like D&AD global and creativity being discussed all over the world.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your sort of personal reaction and how it makes you feel about the industry. Would anyone else like to add about after the judging process? Did you kind of feel buzzed up and excited about anything in particular?
I'll give a positive and an ask of the audience, if you will. The positive in film is that moving picture, film and content is alive and well. We had over 900 submissions. So there's a lot of film, which is great. I think we had a lot of purpose-led film that rose to the top, even if it was for a brand, which is great. It's nothing to say. I think we could have more work that sells a product in film, but that's just talking about the way the world is and things are moving right now. But it was an observation that we had of, for-profit brand selling an actual product. There was not as much, I would say. So that was just an interesting observation.
Lisa, good to know that It's not the end of film.
No, that's why I said, like, it's like not the end of 900 plus. So not, and not a case film in there, all actual films. So that was great.
Brilliant. Jimmy, did you want to add something?
Pardon me?
What were your feelings after the judging process? Because, you know, after presiding over that, were you sort of feeling optimistic about the industry? Any sort of observations?
You know what? My hearing is not that good on this end. One more time, please.
Yeah, sure. If you get, yeah, it's a bit louder.
If you have any comments on the industry after being in your jury, like in your category, like are you hopeful about it? Do you think it's shifting
Thank you.
towards entertainment? Did I do anything?
Perfect. Thank you.
There you go. Like I said, it's folks are still figuring out what is entertainment. And my best story about that is Hair Jordan. Hair Jordan, you guys remember maybe not. Some of you are pretty young. I could say the Lego movie, but I wasn't there for the Lego movie. I was there for Hair Jordan. So Nike came up and showed me the storyboard for Hair Jordan that White and Kennedy proposed and asked me what I thought. And I thought it was the stupidest idea I've ever seen. I said, what the fuck does Michael Jordan and basketball got to do with Bugs Bunny? Ain't nobody gonna dig it. And thank God they didn't listen to me. The thing blew up. And then Warner Brothers wanted to turn it into a feature film. So if you don't know Hair Jordan, you know Space Jam. But Nike had zero to do with Space Jam. Space Jam made 260-something million at the box office, 3.5 billion with a B in merchandising, T-shirts, hats, and whatever. Still to this day, the most popular Air Jordan shoe is what? AJ11, which was what he wore in the movie. That's the power of entertainment and branded entertainment. So there you go.
Well
I didn't
said.
see that in the room.
Yeah. I'm curious to know if the audience has any questions. I think we've got potential for a roving mic. There's a hand up there. Thank you. Just give us a second. And after that, if we've got time, I want people's advice for some of these lovely folks here. Okay, he's coming at you.
Hi. Following up on Jimmy sharing that experience, why do you think it's taken a brand till now to catch on to how smart that would be to replicate it?
I think they were, agencies were making so much money, and still are, but not as much as they used to. We're making so much money on just buying media and getting their cut, right? 15%. Client spends, I don't know, $200 million. You get 15% of that. Let's keep it right there and not worry about the rest of it. But now that that's shrinking more and more and more brands, and particularly agencies, are getting more hip to creating entertainment. And that's where it started with, like, Popeye the Sailor Man, for instance. That's why he ate spinach, the spinach board.
I also think some agencies, like, maybe don't know how, it's the dream. Oh, we're gonna win an Oscar. We have an idea for a movie, and well, this brand can be behind it, and then they don't know what to do with that. So I think that was a shift. I do think that's changing, but I think there was a big gap of, like, agencies knew how to make a commercial. So, like, you do what you knew.
Yeah. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Am I missing a hand somewhere? No? I wanted then to ask, actually, each of you.
We got
one? Okay, cool. Good spot. Thanks for passing it down.
Thanks. I wanted to ask a question from the filmmaker's perspective around, without sounding too self-important, the minefield that can appear when you're doing storytelling or, like you said, making entertainment alongside advertising, trying to make it collaborative, but then understanding what things filmmakers want to be aware of when people are, at the end of the day, trying to sell product. If you have any insights on things like that, it would be really helpful to hear what you think.
Anyone want to take that one?
Do you mean from a film perspective, entertainment, or making film more entertaining?
No, from an entertainment perspective. So a lot like the work that we saw with City of God. Because I can imagine for those filmmakers, it's an interesting line that they have to toe between the story that they're trying to tell, and then the activation that they're also trying to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can speak from it from a film perspective, but I think, Sergio, if you want to talk about the City of God one in particular first.
Yeah.
No, okay. Well, I think when it comes to film, I think storytelling is equally as important. And the way that I would usually look at it is bringing the client along for that journey. So if there's a vision, knowing the product that they're trying to sell, I think being as open with the client as possible helps a lot, so they don't feel like you have your own agenda to create a beautiful piece of film without delivering on potentially what their brief is about. And that's something that we look at as jurors as well. Like, does this exist purely as a piece of beautiful content, or does it actually tie back to the product? Does it, solve a problem, answer the brief, et cetera? Which is why it's really important when you're submitting pieces into award shows that you're really clear about what the role of this piece is, whether it's in the grander part of a campaign or if it's even if it's a standalone. Just be super clear about what the brief was and how you believe the story is telling, doing both jobs, essentially, entertaining and informing or selling.
To me, I think we work in the industry of creativity, and as an industry, we have to make wealth. That's really important because, when you have a piece of work, a film, anything that doesn't produce wealth for the brand, for the community, I think it's a waste of time, in my opinion, because otherwise, we're going to produce beautiful things with no purpose, no link to the brand. So what's the relevance for our industry? I think there are so many beautiful pieces that you see, and trying to look for the briefing, but the beautiful storytelling, beautiful narrative, well product. But when I don't see that it's linked to produce something really important for our industry and make us as the creative community being relevant to the society, but mostly for the brands that pay for us at the end of the day. And us, we have to guide the brands to their purpose, to do something good for the community, to the world. And that's really important because we, as creative, we create the desire to consume. And now we have to create the desire to have a purpose of consuming. And that's quite different. That's really, really difficult, but that's a test that you have to face it.
Thank you for that. We've got time for one more question. We've got one here in the front. Thank you.
You all set my question up brilliantly. And it's around the Coors Cheil rooftops. Had it not been for alcohol and a marginalized community, maybe it would have been, to your point, more purposeful. But when you have an alcohol brand and a marginalized community, does it still add up as magnificently or purposely? That's my question.
I think this is actually something we discussed in the jury as well, is idea-wise, and I think purpose, yes, I think it was quite powerful. But I think what I felt a little bit like I wish they did a little bit more is grow it, and not just focus on that one small community in Miami, but why doesn't it work in terms of a larger scale? Because it is a global issue. And I think that's where it fell short in discussions when we were as a group. My media president's not here, so. but we definitely all agreed that, the idea itself was quite, powerful, and we wish brands would do this more. And also, because we're setting the par for, next years and the years to come, we also had a ton of AI and kind of innovation-driven ideas, but we knew that they're going to do this anyways in the next few years. So how do we end up telling good stories, helping out the community, giving back, and then, what would be the great examples to do so? So I think, to answer your point, Jayanta, I think it's more about, secretly, I love the idea. I wish they just went on a bigger scale to really just, it's not a one-off. I think it should be something that they live by and then continue to do globally. So, and with that, yes, a brand behind that can actually make that happen. So
Thank you for that.
it.
Thank you. That's
I'll
a
do that.
very interesting question. We've got a couple of minutes left, so I'd love each of you just to give one liner of advice for any future entrants, okay, to the D&ADs. Jimmy, one line of advice for anyone looking to enter this.
So, Jayanta, the one who just asked that last question, we used to be partners at Wyden and Kennedy and Chiat and been working together over the years. We were talking about this today, about having an original idea, and a lot of you guys have heard this, there are no new ideas. So what we decided was, okay, yes, that's biblical. There's no new ideas. So just make sure your idea hasn't been done in 100 years.
Great one, thank you.
Or 50, which came up in our room. My advice is when and if a client says to you that film is old school or traditional, remind them of the movies we watch, the shows we watch, the films, the commercials, the way that a film commercial can make you feel, and it can sell a product. And I would just say keep selling film. I'm a big believer in storytelling, and I think it's still one of the best means to storytelling. So keep making those beautiful films.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. I think for me, it's the cultural context again is like a huge learning curve that I think, not curve, learning that I had. So my advice would be, because this is a global awards show, is enter work that is relevant to your culture, to your market, to your people, to your community, as much as possible, because even though there are the sort of heavy hitters like the United States and the United Kingdom and whatnot in the mix, those stories do need to be told, and we do see them and we do look for them. So I guess my one-liner would be, keep submitting yourselves in the work that you put forward.
That's lovely, thank you.
I think for me, we were just talking right before we came up on stage, but I thought our category had a lot of entries, but you were telling us that there was 900. But I think, when you go for days and you're just watching endless numbers of case studies, a lot of times, like, you have to keep it simple. I think in the beginning of it, it's like when you lose the interest, it's really hard to stay focused in those case studies. So it's like, I think to make it super simple and make it very concise, and you have to make people want to watch it for the next 2 minutes. So I think to keep that simple is super key in terms of not getting your work, letting it sell short.
Perfect, thank you. Sergio.
Always chase for the best ideas, for great ideas. Don't let technology blur your eyes, and don't let artificial intelligence make advertising creativity stupid. I think that's it.
Well, thank you all so much for your views, for your insights today. It's been really fascinating. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.